All right, so now it's time to start learning about short form copy, right, and how to master it. This is important. This is the beginning of your actual copywriting career, right? You've learned how to write fascination. You understand how people work. This is the first time where you actually really get to put it all together and create a solid deliverable piece of copy. Short form copy is the beginning of any kind of engagement with a brand or business, right? The purpose of short form copy isn't to sell the product. Like this isn't like the product page. This isn't like a webinar. This is to sell the click. This is the type of copy you see out there that is designed to get the reader to go to a place where there actually will be sold to. So there's lots of places where you're going to use short form copy, like an email, right? Like you send it out to your customers or your people on your list. And you basically the point of the email is for you to get a little bit of interested, a little bit of curious, and then click a link that then takes you to a sales page or some other page to go actually view some type of content then in a better environment, not the email inbox, right? Social media posts is another example, right? Like Greg O'Gallagher, right? This guy, he's using an image and some text to get someone to go click a link on a bio and go consume a product, right? On a different page, right? Paid social media ads, and again, short form copy, right? Images and a little bit of text to get someone to go take action on a page, right? There's a bunch of different places to put it. Tweets, I mean, you can go over and over. There's a lot of different types of short form copy. But the purpose of short form copy is to grab the reader's attention, right? To catch their eye out there in the wild world of whatever platform they're on. And then you're going to give them a reason to leave whatever platform they're on right now to go on, step into your world and be sold to, like onto your website, onto your social media platform, wherever. Take them to a new place where you can actually present information and persuade them in a way that's a little more effective, right? You're taking them away from a chaotic environment and taking them to an environment where you control the environment, where there's less distractions, where you can control their full experience and bring more powerful tools to bear, right? For example, they don't sell Lambos on the sidewalk. They sell them in a showroom where they have every detail absolutely perfect, right? Yeah, they don't sell them out here where it's crazy. There's people homeless, honking things, scaffolding. They don't do any of that. They sell them in a nice, pristine showroom, right? So I'm going to show you how to take and write short form copy, emails, Facebook ads, social media posts, etc., so that you can take people from outside on these different platforms and into this showroom, from outside on the sidewalk of their inbox into a sales page or something like that, where they can actually be sold to and have a wonderful experience and learn something new and all that stuff. If you understand this process of not selling in these places like the inbox, like social media and stuff like that, but instead taking them to a better place where you can actually sell them with effective short form copy, you're going to drive a lot more sales than people who don't understand how short form copy is supposed to work. Again, you're not selling the product, you're selling the click, you're selling the movement from one place to the next, and you bring all the tools of fascinations, curiosity, pains, desires, problem solution, you bring all that to bear in order to convince someone to leave that platform and go to a new place and get sold to. Like I said, short form copy is the beginning. All right, so in that last video, we talked about what short form copy is, the purpose of it. We know that it's to grab someone's attention on some platform like an email or social media, grab their attention, build some curiosity and desire, and then send them to go consume some information, go be sold to, or do something in another location, right? It's to grab attention from here and move it to here, right? And today I'm going to be talking about the DIC framework, which is a framework. It's a skeleton. It's like a series of steps you can follow to create high curiosity short form copy. So emails, Facebook ads, social media posts, stuff like that create a lot of curiosity and get people to go take action, right? It's a good framework. It's a really powerful one. It's the foundation. It's the one you should know how to use better than anyone else, right? Now, the DIC framework, again, it's all about grabbing their attention and building massive intrigue and then directing the reader to click. It's just a simple, it's the meat and potatoes of short form copy. Now, there are three main sections. The first one is disrupt. The second one is intrigue. And the last one is click. These are the three steps you take the reader through: disrupt, intrigue, click, DIC. Let's break down the first one, disrupt. So this is the part where you catch their attention, right? They're out there cruising through their email. They're out there going through social media. They get a notification on their phone or something. You need to catch their attention with the first little part of it, right? If your copy format has images, so if you're writing for like a social media post or like a paid ad or something like that, then you're going to want to use a disruptive attention grabbing image as part of the disrupt section. That's like the first thing they're going to see and pay attention to. You got to make sure that thing makes them stop and pay attention, right? Like they're looking out of the savannah and something new and different happens, right? Because that's how we pay attention. Like, oh no, is that a antelope or a tiger? Like you want that same effect to happen when they come across your short form copy. That first section, the first thing they see, whether that's an image for an ad or like, for example, so a subject line for an email, you want to make sure that first thing, it's different enough from everything else they see on their feed or their inbox that stands out and their attention is drawn to it, right? So you want a disruptive attention grabbing image as part of the disrupt. If you're using something that has images, again, if you're writing an email and the subject line is part of the disrupt section, that's the first thing they see. You got to catch their attention. You got to think pattern interrupt. Like you got to break. They're in kind of a pattern. They're in kind of a rhythm. You want something that, all of a sudden changes and breaks the pattern and shocks them a little bit, right? The disrupt section also is sort of those first few lines of the actual copy itself. So when you open the email, it's the first couple lines. That's also part of the disrupt section. When you start reading the text inside of a Facebook ad, like that primary text, or the text inside of a social media post, the first couple lines, you're gonna have to re-disrupt them and re-grab their attention again and continue to talk to them. Those first few lines are included, right? By the time the reader gets to the end of that disrupt section, they should be paying attention, right? They should be focused on your thing. They should be ignoring everything else, and they should be interested in reading and learning more, right? And then you move into the intrigue section. So once you get to the intrigue section, chances are that like in that disrupt section, you instill a little bit of curiosity and intrigue. There's already a little bit of intrigue and curiosity in the back of their mind. The intrigue sections where you start to amplify and stack on that intrigue and curiosity so that the reader can't help but take action, right? You're going to add multiple fascination points. You're going to add multiple not statements. You're going to create unanswered questions, all that kind of stuff. You're going to pull out all of your tools of curiosity and intrigue to bear and stack them around this idea that you're teasing inside of your DIC email or short form copy, so that the reader should be yours. By the time they get to the end, they should have that low grade anxiety, that little splinter in their brain, making them want to find the answer, right? And you take that anxiety and then you direct that into the click. You take that curiosity and direct it towards the click. You just direct them to take action, right? You say, hey, if you want to know the answer, click this link to discover blah, 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 right? The simplest click section is just a single line with a CTA, right? A call to action. That's what CTA stands for. It's call to action. So whenever you have copy, like say you have an email, the link at the bottom, that's the call to action. You're calling, telling the reader, say, hey, take this action, right? If it's a Facebook ad, there's that button to learn more. That's the call to action. Anytime you ask the reader to do something, that little section is called the CTA or the call to action. Just a little marketing term for you there. But a good CTA and short form copy and a DIC copy contains really all three elements of DIC all in one, right? It should be enough to get the reader to click the link all by themselves, right? So a lot of people aren't going to read your entire copy. They might just, for example, if it's an email, they might open the email and scroll to the very bottom and read the CTA and decide right then and there if they're going to actually click, right? So a good CTA is going to have some disruption. It's going to talk about something they care about, an opportunity or threat, and it's going to have some curiosity elements there to build that little curiosity, that anxiety, and then it's going to tell them to click or take action, right? It should have all of that in one single line so that if someone opens the copy, scrolls to the bottom, they can just take action based on that, right? You also want to make sure that your CTA, that click section, doesn't reveal the answer to the secret you've been teasing in the intrigue section. You've been building up a lot of curiosity. You've been playing like 20 questions, but you've answered 18, and there's only 2 more, and they're really curious about it. You shouldn't tell them what it is in the actual CTA, right? Like let's say you're teasing some information about losing weight, and you've added a bunch of fascinations, some not statements, not keto, not this, not that. And then you get to the CTA, if you say click here to join the course and buy the blah blah blah, then you kind of ruined the spell. You've told them that they're going to find a course on the other side of this, and they're just not going to be interested, right? You're going to want to keep the illusion alive or the mystery alive and make sure that all the answers are on the other side of the link. So to say, they're on that page that they're going to visit once they click the link or take that action, right? As a bonus, you can add a PS section at the end of your DIC copy to drop even more intrigue on the reader or amplify their pain or desire, right? So you do the whole email, you give them the CTA and blah, blah, blah signature, and then you can do a PS, and then you got an additional fascination point or amplify the pain or desire with a single line or two to just sort of stack on top of it, because that kind of can amplify the experience. You don't have to always do it, but it's something to keep in mind. DIC based short form copy works really well when you're talking to cold traffic, right? So you're going to use this format when you're talking to people who have no idea who your company is. This is a great way to get them to step into your world and learn more about it. It's also really good if you're teasing something that your customer doesn't already know about, right? If they're super familiar with a course or a product, It's hard to tease it because they already know the answer to the riddle. So there's other formats that are really good for that. But this is really good initially start building some curiosity and get people who haven't heard about your brand or haven't heard about your products to come in and be interested in it, right? You can also use this format to get readers to consume free content like YouTube videos, blog posts, podcast episodes, etc. Right? So as you're working with businesses or as you have an audience and you want them to go consume different pieces of content to help mold their beliefs and provide value to them, you can use DIC to do this. You tease them, get them all interested and curious about it, and then send them the link to go consume that video. It'll help increase your views and the engagement around that stuff quite a bit if you use the DIC format. And yeah, let's look at some examples that I put together of short form DIC copy, right? So this is a document. It might be better. There might be some more of it, but I'm going to show you this example of some DIC copy. The disrupt section is in yellow, the intrigue is in blue, and the click is in green. So here's an example of an email. This is one I wrote to my student list. So I've got an email list. I send example copy out to students. You don't have to buy anything from it. It's just like as an example. So you guys kind of feel for what it's like. So the subject line was Tate's big secret, right? And then here's part of the disrupt part. Like there's a reason Tate is the kind of superior man he is. I started to tease a little bit, but I've connected it to this desire, like to be like Tate, for example, which a lot of HU2 students want to be, right? They want to become a superior type of man. So that's the disrupt. Intrigue right here is it's not genetics, it's not raw IQ, and it's not luck. This is traditional not statements. We're teasing behind this sort of big secret, this thing. We've told them what it's not, so they now are curious. He used a very specific, hyper-powerful mental model to propel him from obscurity to irrefutable greatness. And that's like just a curiosity bullet. Tate quietly teaches the serious men who ask. Click here if you want to be let in on Tate's big secret. Simple CTA, simple call to action. This is not a very long email. This is a very short email. DIC doesn't have to be long. I recommend that most short form copy stays under 150 words. But here's just a simple example of an email that drove an insane amount of engagement when I sent out to the students, right? DIC. Let's take a look at the Facebook ad. Now I created a Facebook ad. I didn't run it, but it's basically the same copy. But this is just so you can show how it works, right? The image is part of the disrupt section, right? This is the first thing that they're going to see. So it's Tate, big bold letters, red thing, arrow, and still some curiosity. It's going to stop the scroll. There's this other part of the disrupt, which is the first line here. There is a reason Tate is the kind of superior man he is. I put an emoji, the down arrow. Emojis are cool for disrupt as well. You can use them in subject lines. This is part of it. There's a little bit with the headline, but this will stop the scroll, right? The primary text is really where the intrigue happens. And again, it's the same copy as the email. This is just so you see how it works across different formats. So once you expand the ad, you can read, it's not genetics, not raw IQ, blah, 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 the same stuff. And then the last part here, the last part of the primary text plus this section right here, this is the CTA, the call to action, the click section. Click the button below if you want to be let on Tate's big secret, discover Tate's secret to success, learn more. That's the CTA, it's the call to action, it's the click section, right? Here's this as an Instagram post. I did this for like 3 seconds. I don't think anybody saw it, which is cool, but I just did as an example. Same thing, right? Image is the disrupt. The first line there is part of the disrupt. The text is the intrigue, and then the call to action, usually on like an Instagram post, is to go click a link in the bio or whatever. But again, this is kind of how it looks over 3 different formats. You can kind of take this information and extrapolate across any other format you're in. If you're in a tweet, you can kind of know how to do it now. You know what's going to be the disrupt, what's going to be the intrigue, and where the click's going to happen. It doesn't really matter what platform. A video, even you can use the same format, disrupt, intrigue, click, just with the words that you're saying. You can take this framework and apply it to all sorts of media, as long as you understand what the part is we're going to grab their attention, where you stack curiosity, and then how you direct someone to take action. These are some examples you can look at, though, to see how it looks, how it feels for the DIC format. Again, this is a powerful one. You'll use this for a lot of the writing that you do. So just keep that in mind. Use these examples as you're learning how to write DIC emails and DIC short form copy, because it's a powerful format. You'll use it a lot as a copywriter. All right, so in the last video, you learned how to do DIC. Powerful framework. You can use it quite a bit, right? There's another format that's extremely useful for short form copy, and that's the PAS framework. Now, this one's really cool. The subtitle I put here is Get Them to Move with Short Form Copy, and that's because PAS is really good for inspiring action, right? This is about triggering massive emotional motivation to take action, right? And it's typically used, so DIC is used when you're talking to someone about a new idea, or you're talking to someone who's not familiar with your products, to build a lot of curiosity. Once they've already discovered the answer, it's kind of hard to get them to go look at a page because of curiosity, because they kind of know the answer already. But what this does is it magnifies the emotion that they feel and motivates them to go potentially take action, right? There's three elements. There's the pain or desire, there's the amplify section, and there's the solution section. Now, pain and desire, you can use either one. You can either be positive or negative for this. You can either talk about problems and amplify their pain and problems that they feel and get it to where it's like that horse example I used before, right? For motivation, it's like you're driving the horse forward with a stick, or you can increase the desire. That's like dangling the carrot in front of the horse, right? And you can make the carrot really, really, really good looking, right? So you can either go with pain, or you can go with desire. Sometimes you kind of blend both, but you want to amplify their emotions around those things. So then when you present the solution, they're likely to take step forward to act, right? So let's talk about the pain and desire section. Now, this is where you catch their attention. Again, you still have to disrupt and catch their attention. They're on some platform. You need to get their attention. That's the first battle you always have to win. And then you're going to tap into a major pain or desire they're experiencing, right? Now, remember, you don't create desire or pain, right? Like, you're not trying to convince anybody to feel pain about something. You're not trying to convince somebody to care about something. You're taking people who already care about something, who already feel a little bit of pain in their life, they feel a little bit of desire, and you're going to amplify it, right? You don't create it, you amplify it, right? So you're going to pick one that already exists. Pick one of their biggest pain or desire buttons, right? The thing that if you like push that button, it'll make them act, right? It'll make them take action. And that's going to be the focus of your copy. Once you've done that, then you're going to amplify that emotion. So most people have found ways to comfort themselves. Like, humans are way into like self-soothing, like people that touch their face, like when they're in a conversation, that's usually to soothe themselves. There's a bunch of ways that humans, we minimize the emotional intensity of our pain and desire because it's easier than changing, right? It's usually easier to tune down that pain or tune down that desire than actually put in the work to fulfill that desire or fix that pain, right? So humans are tricky like that. So for you, if you're trying to get someone to take action, you have to stoke the flames of their existing pains or desire until it propels them to move, right? So a lot of times people don't cross over the threshold of action because their emotions are too low, right? So what you do is you amplify their emotions and you get them to take action, right? And you do this, and when I say this, you amplify emotion with sensory experience, future pacing, and elevating the emotion. Let's talk about sensory experiences, right? So emotions come as a result of experiences, right? We get information comes in through our senses, and it triggers an effect inside of our body and our minds, right? That subconscious mind, like we talked about in the creativity modules, right? So if you can get the reader to play a movie in their mind, you can trigger a corresponding emotion, right? And you use sensory information to construct that movie. You make it vivid and compelling. You use sight, smell, sound, taste, and feel, and it will trigger that emotion. Let me give you an example right now. You can all probably think of a meal you really like to eat, like maybe your mother or someone you know makes a specific meal, and you can imagine what it smells like. You can imagine what it looks like to sit down and do that. Now, as you do that, and you picture what it looks like, you think about what it feels like to sit down at the table to eat this thing. Think about the sounds of someone's voice as they're doing this. You think of the taste, the smell. As you think about this, it's going to trigger certain emotions inside of your mind, right? This is just one example, right? You don't have to use all 5 of the emotions, right? But the more of them you can mix in, the more vivid and powerful it can be, right? So you can use this type of sensory information around the experiences that make them feel that pain or that desire to amplify the feeling of it. And the more vivid and compelling you make your movie in their brain, the more it'll drive them to act, right? The other one is something called future pacing. Now, this is a term. Basically, what you do is you give the reader a taste of what the future would be like if they either resolve the pain or fulfill their desire, right? So let me kind of give you an example of this. It's like you're kind of giving them a preview into the future, right? Let's say they've got a problem with fat loss, for example. That's like the classic example for this program, right? If they have a lot of, like, let's say we're talking to Amy, she has a problem with weight, and we can amplify the pain that she feels now, but we can also sort of give her a taste of what would happen if she never solves the problem. You know, hey, continue to gain weight, you'll be a lonely lady with cats, you'll die alone, overweight, get diabetes, blah, blah, blah. You can future pace, and you can use sensory information to make that future seem really terrible, right? And that's an important way to get her to take action. You're helping them understand the true cost of inaction by helping them understand the pain that they might experience in the future if they don't solve their problem. But you can also talk about what their life might be like once they fulfill that desire. I tend to go that way. I like to go positive when possible. But you can give them a little taste of what it's like if they actually got to live their dream life. So you get to tell them, you skip into the future and paint a little movie of them, in this case, Amy, happy with her husband, with her confidence and her smile and the way she looks and blah blah blah. You can do all these things, right, to give her a taste of how good it would feel, and it amplifies her desire to move forward because you're showing them the true benefit of what they get if they take action, right? The other thing you can do is you can elevate the emotion. Now, you should remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we talked about in a previous video, and we're understanding people and their motivations. Most people, one of the ways they diminish the pain and desire in order to not take action is they push those pains and desires down the pyramid, right? So they ignore those top ones and they make their problems, they only really pay attention to how they connect to those lower order needs, right? If you can show them how a problem or desire is actually connected to higher order needs, you can amplify the magnitude of their compulsion to act and change it, right? Status is one of the easiest ones. One of the most effective ways to magnify pain or desire is to show them how their situation or their dream affects their status in the eyes of others they care about, right? If you do that, you can instantly magnify the emotion. And you can do that with a lot of different things, right? You can take problems and show them how it connects to bigger and higher order problems, or you can show them the desire that they want and you connect it to those bigger and more important things. And as you do so, it just magnifies the desire. You can do all of these things, right? You can use sensory information, future pacing, and amplifying the emotion to really get someone to be in a state of heightened motivation, right? And then you present the solution. Now you give them, you direct them to take an action to resolve their heightened state of emotions, right? Again, you keep the CTA really similar to CTAs using DIC copy, just one simple line. There's a few additional levers you can pull though in a PAS email to increase the reader's compulsion to take action now versus later. And the first one is urgency, right? If the reader believes there's a limited time to take advantage of this opportunity, like if there's a date where you can't buy this anymore, or they're going to die at some point if they don't do it, like there's a whole bunch of ways to play with time. But if you make it seem like there's not a lot of time to take advantage of it and they should take advantage of it now, that's urgency. That amplifies the pain, right? Because it's magnified by the time available. And there's scarcity, right? For example, and this is more about like the quantity of opportunities to fix this, or the quantity of the product, or the availability of the solution is limited, right? That amplifies the pain or desire. Let's say you're on a boat that's sinking, right? And there's these lifeboats, right? And there's only 2 seats left and there's 20 of you, right? Your desire to get those 2 things is amplified because it's a competition. There's a chance you might not get it because the quantity is low, right? It amplifies your desire to get on that boat. But just like we could kind of use the same example for urgency, right? It's like, hey, the boat's sinking and it's going to sink in 5 minutes if I don't get on a boat, or it's going to sink in 30 seconds if I don't get on a boat. Your desire, the speed at which you move toward that boat would be a lot faster than if you had like 4 hours, right? So urgency is about time. Scarcity is about quantity, right? But you can also amplify that emotion by cranking one last time on the dial of their pain or desire to get them over the edge and to click the link, right? You hit that emotion, that pain button, you hit that desire button one more time right at the end as you provide the solution, which is usually a link to go review a sales page or complete some sort of action. You crank that emotion one last time after you presented it to get them over the edge to click, right? So let's take a look at some of the examples of PAS copy that we have, right? So we looked at the DIC copy. Let's look at the PAS example. And I've only showed an email here because you already know how to transpose this across different forms of copy. And, so frankly, you just need to see the email and you'll understand how it works. So subject line. This is an email I wrote a couple of days ago for the student list. How to actually feel powerful. Subject line, right? That's that desire to feel powerful. The pain, the desire, this first part, like when you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you honestly see staring back at you? Is it a man with a body of rippling muscle, strong frame, and eyes burning with the fire of indomitable will? This vivid imagery, right? And then we're going to kind of move into this amplification part. Someone that women obsess over and men would follow screaming into battle. That's status, like from men and from women. Or do you see a flabby, scared, empty shell of a man, invisible to women and laughed at by the other men? I've kind of included the fear or the pain here as well. And then I've amplified the pain one more time where I say, here's the kicker. Can you even look at yourself in the eye in the mirror without turning away in gut-wrenching shame, right? So I've kind of given a little movie that they can play out. Even if they're not getting up and actually looking in the mirror, they're experiencing this. They're pretending in their minds as if they're looking away in shame of themselves, right? And then now we move to the solution, right? If you're tired of feeling weak and are ready to do what it takes to become a man of true personal power, then click here to begin your mental evolution and become a new man, right? And that's the solution, right? Simple PS. Problem amplified using imagery, using status, using higher order emotions, and then and then offering a solution. PS is really simple, but it can heighten the emotions and get people to take action when they haven't done it for some whatever reason, right? You're going to get a lot of sales. A lot of people are going to go from the DIC and just go buy right away. PS is how you capture people who went there, but just need a little extra push to get over the edge. You're going to use PS quite a bit as a copywriter. It's a powerful, powerful framework. And you're going to use these elements in all sorts of other types of copy as well. So get really good at the PAS formula. All right, so you've learned how to do short form copy. We're going to start moving into other forms of copy. I'm going to start teaching you about how to do landing pages and other forms of longer form sales copy. However, before we dive into this, I want to give you a framework or a skill set that will allow you to learn any form of copy that you need to, right? And I'm going to teach you how to model successful copy. You have to understand that copy formats change endlessly, right? There's new mediums, new social media platforms, new design trends. Things change constantly in the marketing world. So you need to learn how to adapt. Back in the day, direct response copywriting was all done with like actual physical letters that you mailed out to people, right? Like it looked like this. You'd get like a couple pages in an envelope, and it would be a sales letter like this, a literal letter in the mail that would try to convince you to buy the Wall Street Journal, right? Or it would be like old school full-time back of the magazine and a comic book ad kind of deal where you cut this out physically down here at the bottom and mail it in, get your thing. This ad, by the way, made millions and millions of dollars back in the day. It was a huge success. But, and then when people first started going online and using copywriting, direct response marketing online, there were strange looking websites. Like it was this weird yellow stuff. It looked like this, or weird, like highlighted stuff. The formats keep changing. Right now, there's a million different kinds of pages, different kinds of funnels, lead funnels, webinars, sales pages, Facebook ads. It changes. You've got these type of pages, or simple landing page, or that type of Facebook ad, or this weird landing page. Like it never ends, right? The forms will always change based on the medium. It changed when mobile came out and people started using mobile. And it will continue to change as we move forward, right? Who knows, in the future, we might have copywriting that's all done with Neuralink and you can just like see it. Like we don't know what the medium's gonna look like, but the fundamental psychological like principles, the thing that occurs in the mind and the human mind, persuasion, motivation, all that stuff, it remains the same, right? No matter what the medium is. So as long as you can see a successful examples of copy in a new format, you can model it. You now can kind of reverse engineer how they did it, and then you can turn around and write successful copy in that new format as well. You just have to see it, read it, pay attention to what they're doing, how they're doing it, and you can make it happen, right? You need to just identify the skeleton, or kind of like what they're doing, right? Like I've shown you some frameworks for DIC, like DIC copy, for example. You can identify, okay, they're doing a disrupt section, they're doing an intrigue section, they're doing a click section. And that's kind of a skeleton that you can use to write your own copy using that format. Now, let's say you find a new format of copy, a new framework. You can identify that new framework for yourself, invent your own frameworks based on something that you've seen successful, and then you can just copy it, right? You'll identify different sections of copy or different sort of psychological things that are occurring in different pieces of copy, and then you can just model it and copy it for yourself. You can then take that skeleton and then flesh out the elements from your own brand or product. So you can take sort of the formula and then just plug and play your own avatar's situation, the product, the solution, all that stuff, and just plug and play the language to that formula and produce pretty good copy on the other side, right? Let me give you a quick example. So let's say you wanted to write a good email or good subject line. You go look at your own inbox to find a subject you like this. This is like from a swipe file or a bunch of emails that I've collected. All right. I thought this one was okay, right? How to quit your day job from someone who's done it. That was a pretty good little format for a subject line or a fascination. You can just take that and then you just swap out the elements in that subject line that are specific to their brand with elements that are specific to your brand, right? So let's say, here's the original subject line, how to quit your day job from someone who's done it. And you can just convert that over to how to bench 3 plates for reps from someone who can, right? It's, obviously this is for like a strength training or something program. But I just swapped, instead of quit your day job, I put bench 3 plates for reps, and then like just change the grammar here so it made sense. Now I have a killer fascination, right? I think you could repeat the process all the way through the email. I'd be like, okay, he caught their attention with this type of question. I can use that type of question, but I adapted for this. So he stacked the curiosity this way. I'll stack the curiosity that way. Oh, he did a CTA like this. I'll do the CTA like that, but I'll change it up from my stuff. You can just copy the formula and just plug and play your own stuff. And then boom, you've got a successful email. That's most likely work because it's based on an already successful email that you know is working, right? You can do this with landing pages. You can do it with Facebook ads. You can do it with anything. Webinars. You just take and you consume the copy. You now understand how copy works. You understand how persuasion works. You understand how curiosity works. You just see, hey, what they're doing and kind of how they're doing it, and then you can model it with your own copy, right? You can now apply it, from anything that we're currently doing to new forms of copy for new platforms that haven't been invented yet. It doesn't matter if you can read it, if you can try and understand what they're doing and how they're doing it, then you can copy it and model it for yourself, right? So when you set out to write a landing page or any form of copy for that matter, even from emails to Facebook ads, it's a good idea to first find other successful, similar pieces of copy to model, and then copy those for yourself or find out how they're doing it and then use that information to inform your work. So how do you find successful pieces of copy to study and model? Right. So first of all, you should be paying attention very closely to the copy you encounter in your world as you're going through social media or consuming this, consuming that. You should be paying attention to the copy that's working. And if you see something that you like, an email, a web page, a webinar, or whatever, you need to download it as a PDF or screenshot it or record it or whatever and save it, right? You want to create a Google Drive folder to store the copy that you save. This collection of good copy that you find and build up is going to be called a swipe file, right? Something you can go to swipe inspiration from in the future. Now, over time, it's going to be a huge library, right? And it'll be a place for you to go to get inspiration, to break down copy, to learn new lessons. It's a valuable asset that you're going to have. It can take a long time to build up a good swipe file. So in the meantime, you can borrow the community swipe file for this copywriting campus. Got the link here. It'll be somewhere you can access it as well. It's got a bunch of good starter pieces of copy for you to learn from. It's a good resource. You also want to sign up for as many email newsletters as possible, right? Now, it's a good idea to do this with a completely new standalone Gmail account. So go make a new Gmail account. That way you don't ruin your main email address with just thousands and thousands. I've got like 17,000 unread messages in mine, but it's just a place I can go if I need to get inspiration, right? And that kind of becomes your email swipe file, a good place to go to get a feel for what's going on, kind of see some good stuff just to model from. So you're going to build up your own swipe file. You're going to build up your own email, like subscription swipe file. But another way to do it, and it's one of the best ways to do it, is to go find Facebook ads that are working well, right? So you go look for ads in your feed, Facebook, Instagram, etc., that have lots of likes and comments, because the more engagement, like the more likes and comments, the longer that ad's been running. The longer that ad's been running, that means they've been spending a lot of money to run that ad for a long period of time. If they've been spending a lot of money to run that ad for a long period of time, chances are that the ad is profitable, so it's a good ad. And chances are the funnel, so the landing page, the emails, and everything else on the back end of it is profitable as well, right? People don't usually spend money on things that aren't profitable. So you can go through and just on social media, scroll through, find ads that are working and follow the thread down and find sales pages and stuff. There's some plugins and stuff too that you can install on Google Chrome that'll just like filter your feed by ads. You can go find those. They're pretty easy to Google and find. But you can use this method to find a lot of profitable new funnels and new pages to model, like things that are working that you hadn't seen before. Anyways, there's a lot of good things you can do as you go out and try and find copy to model. Like you're going to learn lessons by seeking this out and breaking it down yourself. You're going to find things that work. You're going to find things that don't work. Obviously, even if a page is profitable, that doesn't mean they're doing everything right. But before you sit down to write a landing page, it's a good idea to go and try and find other landing pages you like, and then figure out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then use that information to inform how you're writing your copy. And again, I do this today. If I sit down to do a copywriting project, the first thing I do after I've done my research and all that stuff on the product and avatars, I'm going to go find competitors. I'm going to go find people in similar fields. I'm going to review my swipe file. I'm going to try and find inspiration. I'm going to see what they're doing and how they're doing it. I'm going to draw from that to inform what I do so I can be successful right out of the gate with the copy that I write. All right, so now it's time to learn what opt-in pages are and how to write them. Right now, you've learned how to model copy, which is extremely important. It's to be helpful as you dive in and learn how to write opt-in pages. But there are some key elements that I can help you learn right off the bat. Let me help you first understand what an opt-in page is. Like all steps along a business's funnel or value ladder, the opt-in page is a trade, right? The opt-in page, they're used to collect a potential customer's contact information and sort of the permission to communicate with them. And in return, you provide them with some form of value, right? A gift, information, a discount, or special access, etc. Opting in for one of these free gifts is one of the first steps along many businesses' value ladder. Remember the concept of how you continue to trade time, energy, and money in greater and greater amounts for greater and greater amounts of value and taking someone to their dream state. That this is usually that first step. They're going from the outside world to becoming part of the brand's world, to an inside member of that world, right? This is their first step into it, right? Which is cool because like once you've collected their contact information, their email address or phone number or something like that, you don't have to rely on some platform like Facebook or YouTube to reach that person either through organic stuff or paid stuff. You can now just reach directly to them. You have their contact information. You can directly reach out to them via email or phone or whatever information they provided. You're not dependent on some third-party platform so much. So let me show you a few examples of opt-in pages and get a feel for them, right? This is my opt-in page for HE2 students. It shows it's really simple. You got a headline, you got some curiosity bullets, you got a CTA, you got a little thing here with my face and little authority boost there, right? Here's the link to it if you want to sign up. It's a good chance for you guys to get to know kind of what it's feel. I send out example email copy for you guys to get a feel for what it's like. So if you want to sign up, do it. If not, no big deal. There's this other one right here. This is a classic. It's just simple, straightforward, in your face, big, bold colors. Really simple. Just a title, a few fascination points, some security stuff here to make you feel safe. But it's really simple. Not a lot going on here. Not a lot to get your way. Here's another one. This is like just a free training one. It's kind of like a little video that kind of gives you a preview, some bullets here and a button. And again, there's about 1 million different variations. There's a ton of different kinds of opt-in pages, landing pages out there. And again, you know how to model that. But the good news is like you already know how to write the main elements, right? Because really the best landing pages like landing pages, opt-in pages are the same thing. They're really usually just DIC copy with a dash of authority and other trust promoting content. Like that's really all they are, right? Got a headline to catch the attention, right? You'll notice that headlines are essentially just fascinations, right? You already know how to do that. There's a reason. I had you guys learn that from the beginning. I wasn't kidding when I called them the Lego blocks of copywriting. If you're good at fascinations, you'll find that they come up over and over and over again. And it's important to have a bunch of really good ones, right? Something to keep in mind, you're going to want consistency between whatever fascination you use for your headline and whatever content you use to get the reader to that opt-in page, right? Because you're usually going to be driving traffic from social media or email or something to get people to go from this outside world to this landing page where they can opt in. Whatever your main hook is, whatever your big promise is over here in this copy that's driving them to the landing page, it needs to be reflected in the headline. It has to make sense. Like you can't take them from one thing where you're talking about X and then they show up on the page and it's about Y. It needs to be, if you talk about X, the page needs to be about X. It needs to be a smooth transition between the two. So little thing to keep in mind. And again, usually that headline is going to be about a big promise, right? You're going to be promising the reader they're going to get something, or it's going to be connected to either their biggest pain or their biggest desire, right? And that's obviously something you're going to have uncovered with your research. You're going to have the exact customer language, and you will already have written probably a whole bunch of fascinations to make that really easy. So whatever fascination you pick for your headline, it needs to be potent, right? It can't just be a mediocre fascination. You want it to rock the reader if possible. Like you want it to break their brain, right? It needs to be so potent that like their brain has to try and figure it out because it's so intriguing and powerful for them. You want it to be so good, this headline to be so good that they will tell their friends about this headline and this piece of copy for the rest of the day, right? And that might sound like a big ask, but you can literally do this, right? So here's some examples of some of these headlines that actually achieve that, right? There's the classic one-legged golf, for example. Amazing secret discovered by one-legged golfer adds 50 yards to your drives, eliminates hooks and slices, and can slash up to 10 strokes from your game overnight. Breaks your brain. You're trying to figure out how it works, what it is. It's connected to things you want. It's unique. You're going to tell people about it. This is a good headline. This is a really relevant. This one maybe not be as exotic as the last example, but this is just a good one. The bare bones 2-page funnel generated over 185,372 leads for us, and how you can swipe it to attract your unlimited leads for your business. It's just straightforward, specific. It's curiosity built. There's just enough information given here that they want to know what it is. It's a solid headline, right? This is a classic one from this like financial copy. America's #1 stock analyst says, "I'm done with stocks, and so are you." Just like right in your face, just big, bold, completely contrarian to the main to the main like status quo, right? In your face, big headline, right? Breaks the brain. This is an old one, but a classic. For golfers who are, this is not necessarily a landing page, but it was like a landing page style old school copy. But it's for golfers who are almost but not quite satisfied with their game and can't figure out what they're doing wrong. Beautiful. Calls out the avatar, calls out their need, talks about like that little insecurity they have about their golf game. Beautiful headline. Or this one, right? This is another landing page for a free training or for like this for this book. After spending $1 million in ads, we are revealing our proven winners so that you can straight up copy, deploy, and make money now. Just big in your face, $1 million in ads, copy, deploy, make money. Like it's just a straightforward, solid headline for a landing page. So again, you're going to catch their attention with that. You're going to talk about their pains, their desires, to make a big, bold promise. There might be a little bit of copy here and there thrown in. You want to then move on to building intrigue, right? Like the point of this landing page is to get them so curious and fascinated by what they're going to discover on the other end of submitting their stuff that they submit their information, right? You have to build that intrigue so they really want to do that. A powerful way to accomplish this is to stack your fascinations, right? Fun fact, another name for fascinations is actually like curiosity bullets. People like use this term interchangeably. And that's because a lot of times you use fascinations as like a bullet list, right? So you stack curiosity on landing pages. Here's a few examples. This is Rachel Peterson landing page, and she's got 3 fascinations stacked here. A to Z of how to get started with TikTok. My weird hashtag strategy that helped me grow by 52,000 followers in 1 month. Your first 1,000 followers on TikTok, a how-to training. Like they've just stacked the curiosity bullets there. Here's a classic one. This is a Dan Kennedy landing page. You can see, I mean, the headline's a curiosity bullet, but you can just see he stacked bullet after bullet after bullet after bullet after bullet after bullet. It's like a whole page of bullets, right? And the point of that, if you go through and read all of these, assuming you're the target market, is it stacks curiosity. Curiosity gets more and more and more. Again, this old ad, which is one of my favorites, does the same thing. Curiosity bullet after curiosity bullet after curiosity bullet after curiosity bullet. The table of contents are a curiosity bullet. But the cool thing is, like, if you go and read those curiosity bullets, they're so good that the reader would happily submit their information just to get the answer to one of those things. Not to mention stacking it on dozens and dozens and dozens of time, right? So it's not just they want one thing really, really bad, they'd happily submit their information for. It's they want 12 things now, right? Like the curiosity is stacked to a point where it's like a raging inferno and they have to put it out. That's what you want to do inside of a good landing page. So once you connect with their desire, you made a big promise, you stack the curiosity. This is when you want to start layering in some authority and some trust, right? Because you want to remove the fear, any fear they might have about the quality of the info they're going to be getting, because you're promising something. They don't know you. You're a stranger. You need to kind of introduce yourself. They need to resonate with you. They need to feel like the sources of this information is going to be good, right? So usually you're going to want to demonstrate some authority and do a few other things to build some trust. And again, this is way important when you're doing a landing page and an opt-in page that is targeted towards people who aren't familiar with your product, which is going to be most of the time, right? You need to build that authority. There's a bunch of ways to do it. Some of the best ways are to show your track record. So like show your past successes that you've had as a guru, right? And I say you, I realize many of you aren't going to actually be running your own business online immediately. You're going to be helping other businesses to do it. So when I say you, I mean like your clients. You're going to show your client's track record. You're going to show the other people that your client has helped, and you're going to show their authority by association. So if they're associated with anyone that can provide any level of authority to them, right? So let me give you some examples. The Dan Kennedy one, there's a couple of examples, right? In this part, he talks about how he's not some youngster promising to be your savior after watching some videos. He's got a 40-year history as a guru to gurus. It talks about, how good he's done. You get this whole section here about who's Dan Kennedy. Talks about all the things that he's done. He's the founder of this magazine. He's taught this for 6 million people around the world, 9 consecutive years. He spoke at the Success Thing alongside Ronald Reagan, Colin Powell, Johnny Cash. So it's just power by association, power by numbers of people that he's helped, proven track record, how many books he's written. Like he's just stacking and saying, hey, I'm a guy you can trust, right? Even in this example, right, that we shared earlier, America's #1 stock analyst. And this is just the first place he starts talking about authority. There's a whole section of the sales letter where he just stacks this guy's authority and why you should listen to him, right? In this example, there's a couple places, right? They've spent $1 million in ads. $1 million in ads, like that lends a level of credibility all to itself. Plus, there's a section down here where they show where it's been featured on these different news outlets. There's a lot of different ways to weave authority throughout a landing page, right? And what that's going to do is increase the sense of certainty that they're going to get what they want, right? So you're making them a big promise. And by layering in some authority and some trust factors, what it's going to do is it's going to give them confidence that they can actually get what they want. So that's kind of the main elements in a landing page. When you sit down to write one, you're usually going to plan out at least those 3 elements. You might put a few new things in, a few additional things in, depending on it's a landing page you decide to model, right? Because that's the first step you're going to do. You're going to sit down and find other pages that you want to model. But those are going to be the main things. So you're going to sit down and plan your headlines. You're going to plan your fascinations. You're going to plan your call to actions. You're going to plan how to put some authority in there. But if you're working with a client or you're running your own business and you have to figure out, what you're actually going to offer as bait, that free thing that they're opting in for, then there's a certain process. You want to think about things that are going to be helpful to somebody who's taking their first steps towards their dream state. So you're going to think about the avatar, you're going to think about their dream state, and you're going to think about some of the first roadblocks they're going to run into. You want to create your free value, that free gift that you're offering them, to be something that's going to help them with those first few steps along the way, right? Like, for example, in my landing page is 10 tips to reach 10K a month as a copywriter as quickly as humanly possible. And those tips are valuable information that someone needs to know when they're first starting as a copywriter so they can progress as quickly as possible. It's useful to the avatar where they are, right? And again, that's useful because you want to think about those roadblocks you're going for, and usually just giving them information and helping them understand their situation, what they really want. Like, if you can wrap that into a valuable package, an ebook, a guide, a video, or something, that's usually enough to make it worth it for them to opt in and give you their email address and sort of join your world, step into your brand, right? Now, you measure the success of a sales page based on the conversion rate. So you're gonna have 100 visitors. How many of those visitors actually opt in, right? If it's 25, then you have a 25% conversion rate, right? You want to have as high of a conversion rate as possible for free gifts and free offers. You should shoot for at least a 25% conversion rate. That should be like your bare minimum of what you accept, but you can obviously go higher than that. And obviously, the higher the converting page converts, the more valuable it is to drive traffic to that page. If you drive more traffic to that page, you get more people convert, you get more leads, you can sell more people, right? You want to dial in all those elements: the headline, the images that you use, the entry, the CTA buttons, all that stuff to ensure the highest possible conversion rates. Writing landing pages is extremely valuable. Again, like I said, it's the beginning. It's where you've taken short form copy, you've got the reader to that page. This is where they make the decision whether or not they're going to sort of join your brand or step in and give permission to be marketed to or not, right? So if you can do this more effectively than your competitors, if you can do this more effectively than other people in the market, then you win, right? If you can help your clients do that, then they win and you make a lot of money. So learning how to write landing pages and really dialing in those 3 elements: the headline, the intrigue that you use, and the authority that you drop, that would do the most for driving the conversions on your landing page and making it successful. So keep those in mind.
All right, so we're going to begin the next series of sprints, which will be focused entirely on helping you learn how to write long form copy in addition to your short form skills. Now, you might have some questions. What is long form copy? Why do I need to know it? Well, long form copy is typically referring to things like sales pages, landing pages, VSLs, webinars, long form content. So not just an email of 150 words, but a piece of content that can take someone from where they are to a conversion event, right? So, and a lot of times that's cold traffic to a conversion event. So you have to hit all the levels of persuasion. You have to make sure that you include all the elements to help them make that choice. And it's more involved than short form copy, where you're just trying to spin up their curiosity and send them over to the sales page to do the persuasion. You're actually doing the hardcore persuasion, right? Now you need to understand the principles in short form. They still apply here to long form. You're gonna use them, but you're gonna need to understand a few additional concepts in order to write good long form copy. Now, something to know about long form copy is it is significantly more valuable to a business than just the short form copy alone. Long form copy is responsible for conversions, right? For getting them to actually pull out their wallet and buy or opt in or attend an event, et cetera, right? So if you can do this well, and let's say you're selling a high ticket item that's worth $1,000 to $10,000 per conversion event for the business, you can do the math and realize how much money you can take home as a result, right? You can provide massive competitive advantage for your customers if you learn long form copy, right? It's an extremely important skill. It's really where a lot of the money is as a copywriter. This is going to be the core part of a lot of the funnels that you create as you move forward and become into the more experienced sprints. But in these upcoming sprints, I'm going to first give you a quick overview of everything and teach you some quick and dirty principles that will allow you to just, after this first sprint, you'll be able to create long form copy right off the bat, right? I'm going to give you a general outline. I'm going to give you some tips on how to model stuff and how to create sales pages like just now. And then the rest of the sprints, I'll go into a deeper dive in each of the individual components of the long form copy, some of these more important principles. I'll make a long form sales page live with you as we go through the sprints. You'll be able to see that as an example. But this first sprint is just going to give you an overview. It's going to help you understand what happens in long form copy, and it's going to give you the tools to go out and do it today as I continue to build the rest of the sprints. So that's what long form copy is. That's why it's important. That's why it's going to help you make a lot more money as a copywriter. And it's going to help you bring a lot of value to your clients. Okay, so at this stage, you guys have had some exposure to long form sales pages. You looked at things in the swipe file. We have you looking through long form copy from the very beginning of your time here in HU2. Now, you've probably picked up on a few things. There's a few commonalities across all the sales pages, but I'm going to give you sort of a rough outline of what typically happens in a sales page, what each section is, and what the purpose is. Now, you need to understand this is a very loose outline. Not all sales pages have all these elements. Not all of them have them in the same order. Some have extra elements. It doesn't matter, right? There's a lot of different ways to accomplish the same thing, but all of these sales pages are going to accomplish the same overarching goals, which is they're going to captivate the reader's attention. They're going to shift beliefs and teach new lessons, and they are going to help the reader decide to buy the product if they are sort of a good fit, right? Now I'm going to talk about each section of this outline that I'm giving you. And again, this is a rough outline. I may add things to this in the future. You may pull up the Google Doc that's shared inside the sprints, and there might have additional or less items to be refined. But that being said, these are the main elements of a sales page, and they're the main elements of any long form sales, whether it's VSL, whether it's webinar, whether it's just a condensed version of this in a landing page. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but most of these elements are going to be found basically on all of them. So I'm going to go through each of the elements now. The first part of the sales page is that headline, that first part of the page. And the point of that is to grab attention and basically break the brain of the reader, right? Like they need to see the headline, and it needs to be something that they think about all day long, whether they read the rest of the article or not. Like it has to be something that captivates attention and creates massive curiosity and desire to continue reading the rest of the sales page. To do that, it has to be relevant. It has to be something about them, something about things they want. It's got to have some curiosity elements to it. This is where your fascination skills and your ability to understand your avatar come into play. A good headline can make or break a sales page, right? I'm going to be talking about in another sprint how to come up with good headlines, but we know that the headline is that first part, and it's in many ways one of the most important parts of a sales page. The next part, the next third of the sales page of the long form copy is the lead, right? Now the lead is, it's very much like the different types of short form copy that you've experienced so far. It's really going to be very similar to DIC or PAS, right? The point of this is to connect with the reader, help them understand that you understand them, that they're like known, seen, felt, or whatever, right? Like that you can relate to them, you understand their pain. You're going to make big promises about the dream state that you can help them provide. You're going to tease the mechanism or sort of that law of nature that's going to solve the part of the problem that they need to solve to get their dream state. You're going to tease that in a way that makes them want to keep reading. You're going to open loops and create some open-ended intrigue and curiosity here so that they read the rest of the sales page. A lot of you guys ask, like, well, do people really read these long sales pages? They do for curiosities, right? Some people don't read everything. Some people skim, and we'll talk about that in later videos. But a big part of the consumption of the sales page depends on how good your headline is and how good that lead is at connecting with their pain, making big promises, teasing certain things that will be revealed in the rest of the page, and establishing credibility so that they want something, they're curious about something, and they know it's just safe or real enough for them to invest their time in reading, right? Once you've accomplished then the lead, then you go to what's known as the body, or sort of the main part of the sales page. Now, the goal of the body is the whole point is to shift their beliefs. You're basically red pilling them on how the world really works, right? They want this dream state, but they can't have it, or they haven't figured out how to have it yet. And it's because they don't understand something about how the world works. There's some beliefs they need to fix. There's some insights they need to have and the path they need to take. The body is going to reveal what they need to do to get their dream state, but not necessarily how to do that thing, right? Another thing that happens in the body is you are going to oftentimes use a discovery story where it's told through the point of your guru or some other person of how they discovered the solution. So it's a chance for you to use storytelling to take the reader on an emotional journey where they get to experience some of the same emotions and discover some of the same things that the guru did as they discovered or came across the solution that they're presenting inside the product, right? So you're going to introduce the guru, you're going to preview. Usually if you're going to be doing storytelling, you don't always have to use a story here, but if you do, you're going to usually like slap them with a height of drama. So the moment where it's most interesting, exciting, or dangerous, you're gonna usually slap that right in front of them. So you open that loop and make them want to read the rest of the story. You show the person's struggles, right? Something with this is you don't want to make the guru look like a loser. You want to make them look like a really good person that just had a problem because of a lack of understanding or, again, a lack of belief or something that you're going to easily solve with a product, right? You don't want to be like the guy was a complete alcoholic and that's why his business wasn't working. No, you want to be like, he was a good guy working hard his business. He just didn't understand how to do credit, for example, right? So you're going to show the struggles. And again, the reader's going to be going along with the guru in the story. And I'm going to talk more about this in the sprint where we break down storytelling in sales pages. But basically, you're going to give them the chance to empathize with the guru. Be like, okay, he's going through something similar to me, maybe a little bit worse. Show the ways they tried to solve the problem but couldn't, kind of to preemptively address some skepticism or alternate paths. You're going to probably show that moment where all seems lost, like it looks like he's going to fail, but then miraculously there's a decision and a discovery moment where he figures out what he needs to do to be successful. Either someone else comes in, he puts in the work and goes and figures it out himself. Somehow, some way he finds a solution and he understands how the world works, he understands this mechanism, and he's able to then go and experience the dream state, right? And you're going to give them the story, and usually this discovery story allows them to see how this goes. Like they get to experience the roller coaster of the emotions and get to kind of get a glimpse of what it would be like when they solve this problem for themselves with this. Again, they should read this part of the sales letter and be like, wow, my life has completely changed. I know what I need to do now. I know what's holding me back. I know what I need to do, but they should have a million questions about how to do it. And they should have some doubt in their ability to do it by themselves. That's how they should, they'll walk in the body excited to learn, and they'll walk out of the body section with their mindset shifted. They'll probably tell all their friends about it for the rest of the day/week. And they'll be eager to figure out how to actually implement the solution to their problem that they just discovered in that body section, right? You're making claims and then you're going to be backing up with proof, like within the story and with other proof elements. Again, that's something I'll talk about more in the body section, but that's what happens in that middle section of copy. Once you're doing that, then you move to what's called the close, right? Now, the purpose of the close is to introduce the product and to help them make the purchasing decision now that you've amplified their desire, you've reshifted their brain, and you've shown them what they need to do. Now you're going to position the product or service as the vehicle that will help them actually act on and implement that solution, right? So you're going to introduce the product, you're going to show how it taps into the mechanism to get the dream state, you're going to tease contents, right? This is very important, right? Like
you're not going to just reveal explicitly what's on the inside. You want to create massive FOMO and curiosity about what the actual contents are. Like if it's modules or their attributes of the thing, you're going to want to use fascination bullets here and bullet points, right? Like this is where the bullet point comes from, to tease that, tease what's on the inside. Like if you go look at the table of contents of any of Dan Kennedy's books, they're just giant fascination bullets. They tell you what's inside, but they also just make you massively curious to actually read what's inside, actually discover what's there. So they've got massive desire, right? They know about their pain, they know about the dream state. They just reshifted their beliefs. They know what they need to do. So they're pretty on board with purchasing. If you douse that with just insane, if you douse that fire of desire with insane curiosity here at this point, it makes it really easy for them to want to buy, right? It'll drive them over the edge. Then you'll what's called a value stack. So you'll show what they have on the inside in terms of how valuable it is, and you'll introduce price. So that's going to allow you to anchor that price. So you're going to say you're going to get all these things for X amount of dollars, right? Then you're going to stack additional value with bonuses. Usually we say, and that's not all, you also get X, Y, Z. You've seen this in like late night infomercials. The reason they do that is because it works. You can do it tactfully. But what happens is, and I'll cover this more in detail in the video, but in the other sprints, but once you set the price for the main contents and then turn around and stack bonuses on top, they see that as pure profit, value profit in their brain. They're like, okay, I'm paying this much I'm paying, let's say $397 for this much value, but then he's stacking on an extra $1,000 of value after that. It's all pure, like the rest of that is just pure profit they're getting for free in their mind. It's just how human brains work. It helps them make decisions. So you definitely do that. Then you'll also, in the close, you'll probably introduce a guarantee or a risk reversal or the lack thereof, right? You're going to do, again, at this stage, we're just trying to pull some of the levers to make this decision as easy as possible. One of the ways to do that is to reverse risk with a guarantee. This is where you would do your guarantees. Also, this is where you want to hit scarcity or urgency, right? If it's real and if it's available, you're going to say there's only a limited number of slots / products, slots / actual inventory, or this is going to end. I'm going to not give away the bonuses. I'm not going to sell this product after X date, right? You want to add some urgency. And then there's a bunch of different ways, different closes. I'm a big fan of the 3-way close. You probably do that a lot. So you'll present them with the 3 paths to have. You can either go back into the world and stay blue pilled. You can try and figure it out by yourself and take 10 or 20 years, or you can just buy this product and get the dream results as quickly and easily as possible while avoiding all the problems, right? And then you're going to dump the testimonials. Oh, also, yeah, down here is like above, like once you actually tease the product, that's typically when you drop the testimonials and then you introduce the price. And then at the end, it's really common to just dump insane amounts of testimonials at the bottom so that the social proof gives them a little more certainty that this is going to work for them. Anyways, like I said, these are rough elements. There's a lot of different ways that people do this. There's no one right way, but you need to accomplish these sort of psychographic or psychological outcomes that I've defined here for each of these sections. How you do it and where you put the Lego pieces on the inside isn't as important. So this is the rough outline. This is roughly what you're going to see in the sales pages you look for. This is roughly what you're going to include in the sales pages, VSL. Again, any type of long form copy that you do for your clients. And again, this is rough. This will be updated. This will be refined as time goes on. I'll probably redo this video too. Anyways, go over this list, compare it to some of the sales pages that you've got in your swipe file that you looked over, see what they do, see what they don't do, see if there's any additional things. Use this as kind of a general guide to what has to happen in long form copy. So we're in the intermediate sprints now, and we're talking about prospecting, finding clients. So the goal of this section is, now that you've learned how to do short form copy, how to write really compelling emails, Facebook ads, social media posts, maybe landing pages, stuff like that, is to now take those skills and turn around and find 3 to 4 high paying clients who will pay you $10K a month, right? And you're going to do that by identifying prospects or people who fit that potential. They have the potential to be that kind of client for you online, finding them online, reaching out to them with messages, getting them to respond back, hopping on a sales call, starting off with a small project and upgrading them to, these big 3, 4, 5K a month clients, right? The goal isn't to land 30, it's not to land 300, it's just to land 3 to 4, which can be pretty simple. And however, it is hard work. You have to realize that each one of these clients is like an asset that's worth, anywhere from 10K to 50 to 100K a month from your first year, right?
You don't just find 10K to 100K assets just laying around on the floor. You have to actually kind of dig and put in some energy and effort to get them. But once you do, they're obviously worth it because you can manage that relationship and be very fruitful for you, provide you a lot of cash, which you can then turn around to find bigger and better copywriting clients or invest in other methods to make money inside of HU2 and do things like join the war room and other exciting opportunities in your life. So that's the goal. This next section is going to be these sprints are going to be designed to teach you the mindset you need to have, the techniques you need to have to go out and find these potential clients, reach out to them, bring them in as clients, and then help them make a bunch of money and help yourself make a bunch of money. So that's the goal of these sprints. That's the goal of prospecting. Get those 3 to 4 clients, hit 10K a month. Let's talk about another important principle, and that is the idea of the buying window. So at any given moment, let's say there are 100 of these businesses that we just kind of mentioned that fit all of these categories. They've got people to reach out to. They've got high margin products. They have money, all these things. To say there's 100 of them. At any given time, only 5 to 10 of them are in what I call, or what is called, the buying window. And the buying window simply means that only 5 to 10% of any given audience are actively in need of or searching for the solution that you provide, right? So out of those people you're reaching out to, say there's 100, only 5 to 10%, 5 to 10 of them actually really are actively trying to find something to improve their marketing through like better copywriting and through better digital marketing. So we're not in the business of trying to convince anybody they need our services. Again, we're trying to find 3 to 4 clients who are going to pay you good money. And the best way to do that is to focus all of our time and energy on people who already know that they want something to solve this problem. They just don't know who should solve it or how to solve it yet. And then you show up and position yourself as someone who can help them solve it in a way that's really attractive to them, right? Sure, you could spend some of your time and convince some of the other 95% of people or 90% of people who aren't in the buying window to jump into the buying window, but it's a waste of your time. Your time and energy is best spent on the highest ROI activity, which is getting yourself in front of people who are actively looking for the solution to their problems, right? So that's an important distinction. Something to understand, though, is that companies go in and out of the buying window all the time, right? So it's sort of, people cycle through it. They're in it, they might solve their problem, they might forget about their problem and then get out of it. They're not in the buying window, they're not buyers in heat anymore, right? They don't match that. They don't actually have the desire to buy your product. They're not a high value or high probability prospect. But when they leave, someone else always hops in, right? There's someone else in the industry that morning wakes up, realizes they have a problem, and now all of a sudden they're in the buying window, right? So it's your job to reach out to people, and you will cycle back through some of the people you've reached out to in the past because you're going to try and catch them in that moment where they're in the buying window and you reach out to them. You want those sort of things to intersect. So you need to be aware of the buying window. You need to be aware of only really working with or spending time and energy talking with people that you identify are in the buying window, right? So if you reach out to someone and they say they're not interested, they're not interested. They're not in the buying window. That's okay. We'll reach out to them in 6 months. So focus your time and energy on finding and identifying quickly who's in the buying window and who's ready to solve the problem. Don't try and waste your time convincing or converting someone to the idea of, hey, you should really do digital marketing. Like there are people that are trying to sell websites to barbers who don't have a website in 2022. That's a waste of your time. If a barber doesn't have a website in 2022, he's not in the buying window. He doesn't believe he needs a website. There's no point in wasting your time trying to convert him to the idea of having a website. Go find someone who's actively searching for a website provided for them, as an example, right? Find people who are in the buying window and help them. Don't waste your time trying to convince or argue someone into the buying window if they're not a good fit.
All right, I just wanted to add an important note here for you guys. So as this copywriting campus has grown, it has become advantageous for you to include in your search for prospects local businesses, right? I'm talking like gyms, barbers, accountants, people that serve a local crowd, right? And I mean, I could list a bunch of things: chiropractors, doctors, dentists, stuff like that, right? People who serve a community, right? And they serve a geographic location. Now, you want to pick people who still sell fairly high-ticket services Restaurants typically aren't a very good idea because they don't have high margins, but somewhere like a gym does or a chiropractor does, they're trading their time for a high leveraged amount. You can usually make them quite a bit of money by helping them improve their online marketing, right? Now, it's pretty easy to do this. You're just going to go on like Google Maps or Yelp and just search, business type in the search bar. And then for the location, you just pick your town or different towns. You can pick a whole bunch of stuff in your state, county, country, etc., other places. It doesn't really matter. You can pick local businesses all over the world, right? There's a lot of chiropractors, a lot of dentists, a lot of different types of local businesses. And I encourage you to test out different types of local businesses and test out different types of approaches with them, right? Something to keep in mind, just some ideas of things that you're going to end up doing to help these people. You're going to help them probably set up Facebook ads and run offers to either generate leads or to book calls for them to actually come in and create appointments. You can set up a lot of different Facebook ad campaigns on that. You can improve websites. You can improve different landing pages they have. There's a whole lot of different things you can do. You can help them offer new products. You can put together new experiences for people in the community. There's a lot of things you can do. You can revamp their social media. There's a lot of things you can do as a copywriter to help them, right? And I encourage you that as you're beginning to test out people, sure, test people out online, but don't forget local marketing, right? There's still a lot of opportunities you can do to help local businesses, right? And I'll put together some walkthroughs eventually so you guys can see how to actually search this, but it's pretty easy. You go to Yelp, you go to Google Maps, you search for that type of business in a location. It's usually easy to find their contact information because they're local businesses, right? You can find their names, the people who own it. You can find the email addresses. It's pretty easy to get in touch with these people, and there's a lot of different ways you can reach out to them to help them with their online marketing. And again, you can follow a lot of the same free value set like patterns that I teach in some of the other or the different email templates that I teach. There's a lot of opportunity here, so just keep that in mind as you're going through. Sure, test online businesses, test people who are coaches online or people who run YouTube channels. That's cool. But don't forget, you can also do local businesses. There's a lot of opportunities to help them because they're businesses that have, while they don't have the same insane scale, they still can have really high lifetime value per customers. So you can still help them make a lot of money, and you can make a lot of money as well.